Welcome, everyone, to our allergy presentations. Today, I'm really honored and happy to have my dear friend, Dr. Conor Brady, joining me all the way from overseas, from across the pond.
Other side of the pond.
The other side of the pond. And I just have to share this for, I don't know why, when you meet people online and doing recorded calls like this, you have this mental image. And for some reason in my mind, I had Conor as being short. I don't know why. When I met him in person, he's 7 feet tall and I'm like 5'2" on a good day. And so it was literally kind of like, oh, hi. For those of you, if you ever get to meet Conor, be prepared, unless you're 6.5 feet tall, to be looking up.
Yes. Yeah. That's something I've had since I was a kid. Yeah.
An imposing presence. Yeah. So anyway, so today I've invited Conor to have a conversation with me about hydrolyzed protein diets, which are prescribed so often for both dogs and cats with allergies, IBD. And these are supposed to be the be-all, cure-all, going to solve everybody's problems. Well, here's just to start us off, I'll hit with big guns right on the beginning. So several studies support the use of hydrolyzed diets in dogs and demonstrate some improvement or resolution of clinical signs. But it is possible to see reactions or lack of improvement of clinical signs with hydrolyzed diets. Oh. In a review of studies investigating hydrolyzed diets in dogs, it was found that 50% of dogs with food allergies enrolled in 3 of the studies demonstrated worsening of clinical signs after ingesting partial hydrolysates that originated from foods to which they were hypersensitive.
Oh, but they didn't tell me that.
They don't tell you that it only works half the time. And I went to a dermatology lecture years ago, which for me to go to traditional medicine lectures is always a good time.
Yeah. Okay.
but this board certified dermatologist stood up there in front of this audience of very traditional veterinarians and said, over 50% of the time it's not going to work. So why do we bother?
Yeah, €10, $20 a kilo, $15 a kilo for this number one ingredient, wheat. I mean, I'm looking at one of them here. Wheat gluten can you imagine putting in wheat for gastrointestinal health when we all know?
Oh yeah, so that's the new Hill's gastrointestinal biome digestive care.
Biome.
And so you discovered this one. The first ingredient's wheat.
Wheat gluten, and they put in a couple of probiotics. So you assume this makes it good for my gut health? Well,
Are those probiotics going to survive the processing that goes through?
I have no idea.
Even if they spray them on at the end, I can't imagine that they're surviving in that bag that's labeled for 2 years.
Yeah, and most importantly, if the kibble is chemically preserved. Chemical napalm to stop bacteria growing on it, and then you put in a couple of probiotics into this chemical sludge, and you think that's going to make the product good for you. It's like buying, M&Ms with some vitamin E, and that doesn't make the M&Ms good for you. It makes them a tiny bit less bad, but it's just nonsense that would be the way to healthy biome, particularly if the first ingredient is wheat. Dogs do not want that in their diet at the best of times, and particularly if a dog is gut sick, it might be the wheat in the first place. God.
So I found a great website that listed all the different hydrolyzed protein products. These are the canine ones, and actually that information I gave about the dogs only being better 50% of the time, that was actually found on an article about cats, and there haven't been good studies. They use hydrolyzed proteins for cats, but there haven't even been good studies about whether or not it works. So that was that was actually a cat article, and they were like, well, here are the dog stats we have. We don't have any cat stats because nobody's even looked at it.
Yeah, it won't stop them selling it for cats, though. It's ridiculous.
No, it doesn't stop them from selling it. No. Although they do sell a lot less. Like the cats are definitely second-class citizens when it comes to any of this kind of stuff, unless it's urinary, and then cats move up to the top.
Yeah, that's it. Like this hydrolysis is an incredible kind of development that in ultra processing, where they have dissolved the protein down chemically, dissolve it down to goo form, and the body then doesn't recognize this protein anymore. And so this is supposedly, it doesn't mean they can't sensitize to it. If you've got a ruined gut, the reason that these ultra processed kibbles don't work for long and they start to fail, which is what that study that you found, is because if your gut is ruined, it'll sensitize to any proteins. No matter, you can go to ostrich, emu, dodo bird, it doesn't matter, because if the gut is ruined and you don't tackle the issue, then those proteins will become a problem. There's another problem with those. I think the first hydrolyzed diet was made on chicken feathers. Can you believe that?
Yes.
And Royal Canin were selling it. And Royal Canin were saying, you see, it doesn't matter what the ingredient is. All that matters is this chemical analysis on the back. So don't look at the ingredients we're using. Chicken feathers is actually a really good protein source to feed your dogs. And you're paying €10 a kilo for that. Oh.
And do you know what they've renamed the chicken feathers so that we all don't know it's chicken feathers? It is, so in that product, the first ingredient is cornstarch.
Yum.
The second ingredient is hydrolyzed poultry byproducts aggregate.
Oh, that doesn't sound like chicken feathers at all.
Not at all.
No.
So, yeah, they changed the name to protect the guilty.
I wonder why. And they've done that before. You see, when you make your own rules, you can do whatever you want. The vampires are guarding the blood banks here. So the fact that this is a prescription diet with no medicinal qualities whatsoever is a complete misnomer already. So they can change the labeling names. So they didn't want to use meal, the word meal. Everyone knows meat meal, one of the lowest forms of protein. Gardeners call it bone meal because it's largely bone meal, because you don't send meat to a renderer's vat, you send bones, heads and skeletons. So they give you this white powder and they sell it to pet food companies, and that's chicken meal, which is like chicken and bone meal or turkey and bone meal. It's a dirt poor ingredient. And the AFCO and the pet food manufacturers wanted to protect us from silly bloggers and vets like Judy Morgan going around telling everybody that meat meal is actually, it's CRAP.
Crap.
Yeah, it is. And so they changed it, and they changed the terminology, and now they can say dehydrated meat. So instead of meat and bone meal or bone meal, it's called dehydrated meat. So the worst quality pet foods here in Ireland and the UK say dehydrated meat is the first ingredient. And doesn't that sound lovely?
Perfect.
Yeah. Doesn't that?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, if it's meat, that could be anything. That could be zoo animals, roadkill, euthanized horses, dead cancerous cows. Lovely.
Dead cancerous cows. I have another bit on this. This hydrolyzed product. The reason these single protein or hydrolyzed diets and all these products in bags that they try to sell you as a solution to your dog's chronic gut issues, chronic, probably on ultra processed pet food, maybe it's time for a change. But the main reason that these products are probably failing is that there was a study here by Ricky et al. In 2013. They analyzed 12 of the most popular single protein and hypoallergenic veterinary recommended dry foods sold in the US for atopy and food allergy. And they discovered that 10 of the 12 foods were contaminated with one or more potential allergens not listed on their labels. Even when the product said no soy or no beef, they were inclined to fail the tests. Dry food companies simply aren't held to the same processing criteria. Isn't that unbelievable? Most of them are just
shocking
because they're made in these sheds with all these proteins floating around. It's not like a wheat-free or gluten-free product made for humans. You can't be in the same town as a piece of bread. It's just...
They don't even clean out the equipment in between runs.
Change the bag. It's a dog. Nobody knows.
Put a different bag at the other end of the run.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
It's not
all right, so let's talk about some other... There's Royal Canin PS, which is potato as the first ingredient.
Royal Canin BS or PS?
PS.
Oh, PS, okay.
This stands for potato as the first ingredient and hydrolyzed soy protein as the second ingredient, then coconut oil and potato protein, and then a whole list of vitamins and minerals. Now, I want to know, and I guess there just aren't enough animals on these to hit the list, but all this BS about potatoes and legumes causing DCM.
Oh, yeah.
Why isn't this one on the list? Oh, maybe they just don't sell enough of it for enough animals.
Interesting. Yeah. They were very, very serious about legumes and potatoes and whatnot, but not when they're selling prescription diets at massive margins.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So Royal Canin's HP is brewer's rice is the first ingredient. Yummy.
Yeah,
that's
very
a byproduct.
high quality ingredient.
Yeah, and then hydrolyzed soy protein and chicken fat and beet pulp.
Yeah. Yeah, the fiber content is a strange one. They do jack up the fiber contents in these foods because they will make the claim that Hill's Biome product is 6.6% crude fiber. So that fiber reading you see on the back is crude fiber, not soluble fiber. You're not told that. You're told of fiber that they can incinerate. So crude fiber, 6.6% is a huge fiber content. But if you look at how they treat Crohn's disease and colitis and whatnot, they are very careful about the fiber they put into their foods. So the problem is vets are picking up these foods. It says GI or biome on the front. Give it to a dog with colitis or those sorts of diseases. But you have to be very careful of your crude fiber content for those diseases, because crude fiber, the stuff you can't digest, the stuff the bacteria won't eat, sucks water into the stool. Now, you don't want that if you've got colitis or Crohn's or any of these diseases. So what fiber you add in and how much is really important to control in these sorts of dogs. And yet this product is just coming out saying extra fiber because fiber is good for guts. Whose guts are we talking about? Nonsense. God. Anyway.
Okay, we'll move on to ZD.
Yeah.
Also starts with cornstarch, then hydrolyzed chicken liver, then powdered cellulose.
Okay, cellulose, a completely indigestible plant ingredient that you get in packaging foam in when you buy stuff online. That's madness.
Yep, and I once had an argument with a vet who, traditional vet, who said, actually an internal medicine specialist, said that there's no way they can ever have a reaction to chicken liver.
Why can't they?
It comes from a chicken. She said, no, only allergies and reactions can come from the muscle fiber, not from anything else. Well, that's interesting because we have animals that are allergic to grains and animals that are allergic to peas
and yeast
and potatoes,
fungus, and
and those are not muscle fibers. That was an interesting one too. And then all of these, like I've got this long list, but they all have this. Most of that, there's like 3 things that you can read, and then all of this is the vitamins and minerals that are added. So let's see. The Purina HA vegetarian is cornstarch followed by hydrolyzed soy protein isolate. That's pretty similar to the Royal Canin HP. They just don't use the word isolate.
Yeah.
And then there's the Purina HA chicken flavor, which is cornstarch, hydrolyzed soy protein isolate, partially hydrogenated canola oil preserved with TBHQ, which is a baddie.
Oh my God.
Some cellulose, and then way down in there's some hydrolyzed chicken liver and hydrolyzed chicken, but they're probably about much.
It was shown. I can't believe canola oil is probably one of the lowest. It used to be machinery lubricant. It's a bad, ultra refined food grade ingredient, which is up there with sugar for causing cancer in humans. And this is a refined version of canola oil.
Yeah.
And
a lot of these just say vegetable oil. They don't even tell you which vegetable.
No, because
which grain, which whatever.
Have you seen the recycling centres? We've got them over here where you can just bring your used food grease and stuff from takeaways and restaurants, and they pour the leftover grease into the containers. Do you know where those containers go? To the renderers. And the renderers render it up, and the fat floats to the top for your jellies and your soap. And the bone floats to the bottom as white powder, which they sell to the pet food companies. But that fat, they're trying to tell you that the fat in that product, that fat that floated to the top of a renderer's vat, is as good as the omega-3 in a sardine or, some food source. And we know how important omega-3s are in inflammation and this disease that you're trying to fight. And they're giving you the worst kind of fats to help your dog rehabilitate. I mean, your gut memory.
I've heard discussions over used restaurant oils, restaurant grease, and that goes directly to the animal feed industry, so like livestock feed. Lord knows how much of that ends up in pet feed, but definitely livestock feed, that's where that goes.
Heated to mega temperatures, vegetable oil heated multiple times to mega temperatures. Hot, you have to change them every week. There's a law in place where you have to come in, you have to check them because it's so carcinogenic. And then when they're finished with it, they give it to the animals that we eat.
Right. So imagine that's being fed to the cows and the pigs that are confinement raised.
Yeah.
And then we're eating those animals with all that inflammation in their body. Like there's no way this could be.
It's just crazy. Leftover bakery products that already have their own. I mean, it's just a shocking, this is a bad start. Where else are you going, Judy?
So then there's Purina EL, which is one of the newest ones. I think it is the newest one. And it was recalled literally the first week it came out. And I can't remember. It was some sort of vitamin mineral issue. It might have been too much vitamin D
it's always D.
But that one has cornstarch, tapioca starch, partially hydrogenated canola oil preserved with TBHQ, powdered cellulose, and a whole list of vitamins added.
Where's the protein? Where's
corn?
It's criminal.
I don't know. It is criminal. And so my question is, are prescription diets, by the definition of being a prescription, are literally supposed to be prescribed for like a 30-day period, just like antibiotics or a steroid or an antihistamine. It's like, it's a short term. A prescription is a short term thing. Although if I think about human medication and people in my household who are on prescriptions, it's just like, here, you just come get them every month, and nobody ever checks anything. But I cannot imagine feeding my dog or cat a diet that a dry kibble, dehydrated, icky, there's so many problems there to begin with, that literally the only thing in it is cornstarch, tapioca starch, and a vitamin pack.
Why wouldn't you just walk down to Walmart and get yourself a kilo sack of cornstarch? I mean, we know what happens when we live on starches, like pure starch, which is essentially pasta, potato. If we eat too much carbs, we get an overweight problem, obesity problem, and
diabetes,
and the
inflammation, arthritis.
It's all linked. Cancer, cancer needs the sugar, it needs the insulin,
that little
all
thing.
that. So, to say that this is a solution for one little gut health, I'd love to see the studies supporting it. Would be great, but they never have them. They can never quite supply you those.
Well, even the vitamin pack in here has menadione sodium bisulfite complex.
Yeah.
Bisulfite complex.
Yeah.
That, like, let's just say carcinogen.
Yeah.
So why, like, if this is going to support life, again, why don't we just go get some cornstarch,
George Jetson
put it
nutritional
in the bowl,
pill,
and a really good vitamin tablet, vitamin pack, mix it up. We could save a lot of money because this stuff is going to cost you $10 a pound or more. Yeah. Versus, I don't know what cornstarch costs, but I think it's pretty cheap.
It's the cheapest. Cornstarch is the cheapest source of calories on the planet. It's why we eat so much of it. Once the US switched from paying for wheat to corn, once the Corn Belt came on side and you started subsidizing it, corn became the cheapest calorie on the planet. And so corn became the major part of our diet. And the food pyramid changed to make sure there was lots of starches being consumed. Nothing to do with the fact of how good or bad these things were. It was pure economics. And now we're stuffing them into dogs. The same ingredients that were used in the 1950s Ralston Purina First Effort. It's the exact same product still being sold. Loads of carbohydrate and a sprinkle of a George Jetson vitamin mineral pill, which studies show are poorly absorbed, poorly handled by the body. They don't want zinc oxide and iron oxide and rust and poor quality conical flask vitamin E, which doesn't touch the sides of the real hormone vitamin E, which is way more complex than what we can make in the lab. But forget about all that. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And studies show that 62% of the complete dry foods, including veterinary brands, sold in the UK in 2016, 160 products were sampled, and they found 62% did not meet AFCO's minimum standards for nutritional quality, and 94% of the can.
I can't imagine any of these that I just went through. I cannot imagine.
How are they checking this?
Them.
Are they testing their own products? They're not, because Hill's put out 22 million cans of vitamin D, too high in vitamin D pet food out the doors of their factories. Never checked a single one. 22 million cans. So nobody's checking these products, and a nutritional deficiency will wreck your guts too, because it'll drive inflammation. It'll aggravate this problem over and over. So you're wasting your money on cornstarch and a useless nutritional supplement. Useless.
Yeah, I wonder where the vitamin, now that you said that, where's the vitamin D even coming from in this? Let me see. Oh, vitamin D3 supplement.
Yeah, there you go. Yum.
But, depending on when that's put in, some of the fat-soluble vitamins, one, they become rancid, and two, they become ineffective.
They fade off. Yeah, so storage times, you're sitting in a warm shelf in a pet shop and all that. I mean, that's why they have such erratic nutritional, when they're measured 6 months later, they're just totally up and down. They don't know where they are. And then your poor animal has to consume it. But maybe he needed more vitamin D that day. Maybe it's an injury and he needs some vitamin C. Good luck getting that from dry food. Most of them don't include it. So, it's just ridiculous to suggest that will be good for guts. On top of the fact it's chemically preserved, and you have a gut flora issue for the majority of these dogs. They just need some decent quality food, and to fix that biome. How can that product do that? It's ridiculous. It's a crime. I
don't know how any of these products can do that. And so, it's not our focus today, but we all know that allergies stem, besides some genetic stuff, we know that allergies stem from poor gut health and leaky gut. How is this fixing leaky
Ridiculous.
gut?
With the top causes of them. I mean, the number one advice, it seems, from conventional vets, if they ever touch real food, they'll say, feed the dog chicken and rice for a while, which, we don't agree with rice. And let's face it, chicken is a very common food allergen because it's the most common protein fed. And that's one of the things your body can have a problem with. But at least sometimes dogs will do okay with that. But they can only have that until the right bag of dry food is found. Like, they nearly had the answer. Like, feed them real food while we find the right bag of dry food. Why would you feed the real food? Because it works, So, although chicken and rice is probably the poorest. Do you know, they have another problem with these products, and that is that the studies do not support using dry food for rehabilitating guts. We've got a number of studies that show when raw and dry are compared, that raw food is better for species richness. It increases gut flora. There was a master's done where it may increase intestinal wall integrity, purely probably because of the amount of compounds that are being fed. There's two very large studies of dry compared to raw, where dry food is highly inflammatory. That one from Finland, 10 times the inflammatory markers if you're feeding dry food. You have an inflammation problem. You don't want to feed a product that throws petrol on that fire. So raw decreases inflammation. And most importantly, a few years ago, a study in Nature, of all, top journal, shows that dry-fed dogs are more prone to gut enteropathy, to gut diseases. So if you have a gut issue and there's a study out there in Nature telling you dry food drives gut issues, what are you spending your money on? You need to take a new approach. You have to.
Yep. And I mean, it's interesting because these animals, if they respond to the hydrolyzed diet to begin with, eventually they're not going to, because we haven't fixed anything. This is sort of like giving them a steroid. And most of these animals that are on these are probably, a good portion of them are probably also on immune suppressants.
Yes, indeed. Turn off the smoke alarms.
Some sort of steroid. Prednisone, budesonide, Apoquel, Cytopoint, cyclosporin. Many of these animals are on immune. So do we even know if the diet is working if they're also on immune suppressants? And so all we're doing, I think what we're doing is I know what we're doing. We're kicking the can down the road. If they respond, we're kicking the can down the road. And then when the can on the road is not working anymore, it's going to be 10 times worse.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a major drive for lifetime drugs, drugs that last forever, so that's what their drive is. They love a bit of insulin. They love a bit of statins. They're things that apparently you need to go on, and there's no solution for your condition. I mean, so I think that sell is very much going on in the veterinary industry at the moment. It's not your average vet. They honestly believe this bag of dry food is the fix. They believe that's the science behind it. They do believe that, just to let the vets off the hook there. It's not really the vets, it's the messages that are allowed to be disseminated among, at the conferences, and this, fast food clowns giving you your nutritional lectures. I mean, it's just crazy. But it's a scandalous waste of money, and there is clearly a solution. And using drugs to suppress the symptoms is not it. That's not how you're going to heal. You have a problem. Your little house is on fire, and you need to put out that fire and stop thinking about the smoke coming out the windows. I'll put a carpet on the roof and I'll sellotape up the windows. Oh, the smoke has stopped. Hooray. That's just dumb. You could put the hose inside the house. And I think that's the problem. We're focusing on symptoms all the time, and wonderful drugs that turn off the symptoms, and then we're happy and we walk away with our terribly overpriced dry food, which has hailed a success. Ignore the drugs I gave you. Come back next week for your Cytopoint injection and whatever else that'll turn off. It's not good.
Yeah, it makes me sad because I was scrolling through my phone the other day, which I really should not do.
Well, we're all guilty.
It just makes me mad. And on a cancer site, I saw someone saying, okay, I read the files and I'm starting my pet on all these different supplements and things. And then you look at the history, and the animal has been on one of these diets for years, has been on Apoquel for years. And now here we are with an animal with cancer. So your little smoldering brush fire has just turned into the raging inferno, and you have a much bigger problem. And again, how are you going to support the health of a patient with cancer using this kind of
It's just
nutrition.
not possible. You would never. I was going to say you would never recommend it in humans, and yet we do see in hospitals, certainly over here, sometimes they'll get chips with their food at night time, or they'll get jelly and ice cream. I don't know if you eat Jello and ice cream and simple little desserts like that fed to people with cancer. And it's like, that is the absolute opposite message they need to come out of hospital with. They need to know.
Yes.
They need to absolutely know. Don't feed this thing. You've got to starve it out. At least pause it.
Interesting, when I was looking up this information about these diets, I just put in dangers of hydrolyzed food, and I didn't say for dogs or for cats. And all these studies came up using hydrolyzed proteins for children with bowel issues. And I thought, oh my gosh, we're even killing humans.
Wow.
With this. Yeah, so apparently children with bowel issues. So let's forget the fact that they're eating at McDonald's and Burger King and, all kinds of dyes and sugars and preservatives in the food that they're eating. Let's forget all that. We'll put them on a hydrolyzed protein.
Yeah, suddenly there's a product that'll help you. Isn't that amazing? All your problems are caused by products, but there's a product to solve it. I mean, it's nonsense. And I think people are a little bit afraid of the hard labor. They think it's going to be so difficult to do this. I could never fix this myself. It's like, it's quite simple. If you have a gut issue, it's highly, highly likely it's something going in his face, in his mouth, that's causing the problem. That's probably the cause of it. It's probably food. And you can do it. You can feed it yourself. How's your dog on scrambled eggs? Is your dog itchy on scrambled eggs? Do you have good conditions on that? So simple for people to get out of it.
I think part of the fear, and I understand it, people are like, gosh, I've been through those bouts where my dog has bloody vomiting and diarrhea. My dog has to be, or my cat has to be hospitalized because they eat something that didn't agree with them. I've been dealing with vomiting and diarrhea coming out of both ends of this animal for so long. I just want something to put a cork in it. And if this promised cork will work, I will take the cork. So what I would caution people with is, okay, great. Again, it's supposed to be used for a very short period of time to allow the gut to reset, which I don't know how that's going to work with all this. I don't think it's the way to reset the gut. But if you need a break and you want to just say, look, I'm going to give them something that maybe their gut doesn't recognize, because sooner or later their leaky gut, their mess of a biome is going to not tolerate this as well.
Yeah, it may work for a little while. And any port in a storm, even if you came to Judy or any nutritionist and you were on some ridiculous Hills product with that your dog was doing okay on, you'll go, okay, no problem. We have something to work with here. But the aim from that point should be, now how do we get off this nutrient bereft cracker and get onto real food? So this is your safe spot. Okay, it's this product that you're using, and from there we'll say, okay, can we add something new every 2 weeks, and pick a novel protein at the start. You say, well, do you know what? He's never had lamb before. Okay, how is he with a little cooked or raw lamb? Because they can both be different, but the gut can treat them both differently. And so you build up your repertoire and you ask the dog in front of you, as opposed to relying on, I mean, we don't need to get into it, but allergy tests and whatnot. You can actually work your way out of it very, very simply through this process, and it doesn't cost you a penny, and it's deeply nutritious. And you can't lose. You can't lose. The only thing that's going to lose is the industry that wants to keep you on that kind of gravy train. And you can make your way off it. And if you're on the Hills dry food, great. Well, if it works, great. But if it's not working, you have to try something else.
Right. Well, and it's amazing how many people I talk to that they're using one of these diets, but then they're supplementing with treats. Or, it's like, well, and then I add boiled chicken to it. Okay. Well, if he's doing well, then we have chicken as something to work with. Yeah, it's like, okay, great. Now let's make a diet based on
chicken bits.
Real food. Yeah. Chicken doesn't bother your dog because things are going well right now. So that's a lot of times that's what I find. People are like, oh, I use this freeze-dried whatever treat. And it's like, well, then you just proved that
that's a good
pork
point.
or beef or whatever is
and now
going
you've
to
got
work.
A little bit of chicken liver going in, some chicken stock from good quality chickens, and it's like, these are nutritious ingredients, and if you can get them going in, it's wonderful. Will eggs work? Egg protein is different to chicken protein, which I can't understand. And so suddenly you have a lot of different things to try, and you get a bit braver as things start to work. You get a bit of you get a bit of bravery and you go, I can do this, and you build that list and suddenly you put in a bit of beef and boom, you get a bad response. Well, if it's the only thing you've changed in the last few days, it was probably the bit of beef you added to the food. You take the beef out, you go back a step and you let the dog recover for a week or so, and then you start it with different protein and you put a big question mark beside the raw or cooked beef you tried. So it is a wonderful way out of it, and it's totally doable, and people believe that they'll upset the nutritional adequacy of these products, but we're here to tell you those products are not nutritionally adequate, and studies show they don't even hit the minimums. You have a 1 in 3 chance of getting the minimum nutrients that your pet needs. So what are you wasting? I mean, you can't do worse than that. So I think
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and the allergy tests, I use them
under
I take
duress.
it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, okay, great. It could be a starting point. For instance, the one that I used to use, anything under 100, that was their cutoff. Anything under 100 was considered safe to feed. And so I saw one the other day, and the beef came out at 814.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd probably avoid
I'm not
beef.
starting there. Yeah.
I'm thinking now it's a little high. So I usually will look for the one that is the absolute lowest. Oh, look at that. Whitefish is the lowest on the test. Okay. Well, there's a good chance that one's going to be okay. Now, it also could be low because your dog hasn't had whitefish, dog or cat, hasn't had whitefish in 2 years. So there's just not a lot of antigen and antibody running around. So you do have to take it with a grain of salt. I had one dog once, a beautiful golden retriever, all kinds of allergy issues. We did the allergy food test, and it said that he was allergic to beef, but fine with chicken. I said, okay. And I sent her home with, a tube of raw chicken patties. And she came back the next day, and that dog's face was this big. His ears were this
it's not
thick.
working.
He was just, and I said, that was wrong. So, it was an easy way to find out. And so I said, well, you know what? Let's just do a little experiment. Let me send you home with beef. And the dog was absolutely fine on beef. So that was a case where the allergy testing, and it was probably that the dog hadn't eaten chicken in a long time. So the test came back low because the owners were like, oh, chicken's always allergenic. So, you have to look at, as a matter of fact, all of our dogs got scabies 1 year. 10 dogs with scabies. It took me, it came from a groundhog that had nested under my mom's deck. And her dog went out there and, tried to snuffle it out of there. And so her dog started itching. And I did every test under the sun on this dog and never found mites. Then my little dog that went to my mom's house all the time started itching. And I'm like, all right, now we got something contagious here. But we tested her dog, and it came back that the dog was allergic to beef. And she'd been eating a lot of beef. So my mom's like, oh, now, 12-year-old dog suddenly allergic to beef. I'm like, I don't think so. Fed ones. And then we moved in together. And then all 10 dogs were scratching.
Gross.
I'm like, okay, this is not a beef allergy.
Gross. Oh, no.
So, So, and, sometimes when I see that with people who are like, oh, my dogs are itching, or I've got 2 dogs and they're both just scratching their brains out. They can't both have the same allergies. I mean, maybe if they're siblings, but I think a lot of times we're misdiagnosed.
I think tests of the allergy tests show that the blood tests are very hit and miss. And I think the problem is that they used to just believe in allergy, but now we've got this whole food intolerance, which is a slightly different beast. It's much more insidious. It's not so gasping on the floor, coughing, trying to catch your breath. It's not this dramatic movie like allergy. It's more insidious. And so that's the blood tests are dire at trying to pick up these things. And so they're very, very complicated. But I think there's a few shining lights that of tests that you might use. But again, I would first try to do it myself and say, look, I'm going to ask you, buddy, what works for you? And it's very simple, using your plain meat mixes. How are you on turkey? How are you on lamb? How are you on beef? It's so simple, and you.
Yeah. And you know what? People get really wigged out at, I don't have a complete and balanced diet in that bowl. And I haven't had a balanced diet for a month. Oh my gosh, the dog's going to have this deficiency and that deficiency. And I can tell you that they are so extremely resilient.
Definitely.
I saw animals in my practice that people would come in and, I've given, boiled hamburger and broccoli for the past 5 years.
Yeah. Crazy.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's so not balanced. And the animal's running around. So,
crazy. But
they're resilient.
that plays into the fact that there is a complete and balanced food there for you. When actually 2/3 of the well-made complete foods aren't meeting nutritional standards, so you don't actually have somewhere to go to get a complete and balanced, because we don't know what that is. It doesn't make any sense. It's this nonsense that was produced by AFCO. So, and also, if your dog has chronic gut issues, they have got serious nutritional imbalances. If you look under the hood of that dog, you're going to find low B12, iron on the floor, all sorts of issues. Omega-3s, taking a hammering, vitamin E will be gone because you're inflamed. And so all those will be there. But the point is, your dog has bigger problems than those nutritional deficiencies right now. Focus on the job at hand. What puts out a solid poo? What does the gut tolerate? And from that point, then she'll start to absorb the nutrients that are being fed, and then she will start to top up her vitamin and mineral levels. But, you don't need to worry about the vitamin and mineral levels. You've got a bucket with holes in it. So it's not running around putting water into what we're trying to do here.
Right, we can put more into that holy bucket. And
you want to be sitting beside a swimming pool for that one. But So isn't it sad that so many dogs suffer this? It's one of the top reasons for dogs going to the vets: recurring skin, ear, and gut conditions 1, 2, and 3. You could say
so
I was just
related, and people don't get the connection.
They're all the same thing.
Well, the veterinarians don't get the connection.
Same thing, and maybe it's all from eating the wrong food. And the solution is not more of the wrong food. The solution is taking control of the health issue and learning a bit about yourself, doing some of your courses, doing the longevity course Judy has, the allergy course that's up on Judy's site that I have. Any one of those will guide you a little bit, and you can do it. You feed the kids, you can feed yourself, you can feed a dog. It's not that complicated, you can do it.
It only, people get so scared because they've been brainwashed with the you can't
fear.
Do it. Your veterinarian has been saying for so many years, no, you have to put the same complete and balanced meal, the same exact one. Don't add anything to it. You might make it unbalanced.
Yeah, you might make it better. Oh my gosh.
For so many years, that's what has been ingrained. And I get why people are afraid to make changes. Even for animals who aren't having a lot of issues with their gut, I'm telling you, if they live on dry kibble, low quality, highly processed extruded kibble for their entire life, sooner or later, you're going to have problems, whether it's cancer, allergies, IBD, pick something, kidney failure, just so many things. We see pancreatitis in kibble fed animals, which, people really stress with the whole pancreatitis issue. We're going to cover that in another month.
If you've got your digestive issues, you're at more risk of bloat. If that's a terrifying disease. You've got anal gland issues from having too many soft poos and an inflamed gut, and all those things that you are down the vet. Recurring skin and ear conditions. People think that is to treat that skin condition, when actually it could be the problem under the hood. That's the smoke coming out the windows of the burning house. So so many issues. All food. I blame everything on food, but I'm not right all the time, and that's where I miss being a vet. I've never been a vet, and I imagine it must be nice to have that extra bit, because I don't have it. But I blame everything on food, but I'm right more often than not, and that'll do for the moment.
It is true. And even in human medicine, so much of it boils down to food. And I'm just going to put a plug out there. I don't know this guy at all. I'm going to reach out to him, but Dr. Ken Berry wrote a book called Lies My Doctor Told Me. Second edition came out a couple years ago. I just finished it, and it's everything we talk about with the pet industry, big food, big pharma, and the lies that we've all been told for ourselves, for our pets. And it's not that the doctors and the veterinarians are trying to lead you astray. They firmly believe what they have been taught and told by pharmaceutical companies and pet food companies. And the government, because FDA is like, oh, cancerous cows, no problem.
It's fine. I blame the regulators. I blame everything on the regulators. There's supposed to be somebody protecting us from these companies who are going to try and make money any way they can, and they don't care about you. They don't. I like what was her name, Maud Barlow. She said over in the US, she's a food whatever you call it, journalist. But she said you got to think about these companies at the top as predators. They don't hate you. but they don't love you. They're just predators, and they just consume, and they consume cash. So what you need is control of predators. You need somebody in the middle to protect us from the predators, because we're just these prey standing around. We haven't a clue, just ingesting and buying whatever we're told to buy. We should have regulation, and unfortunately regulations where there's virtually zero regulation in pet food. The regulation is done by the people that make the products, which is a disgusting way to be. But we know we've got the same problem in human medicine and everything else. So the focus should be on fixing the regulation, and definitely not blaming the doctors and vets at the coalface. We need to bring them along with us, and they're people. They're not like companies. They're people that actually love animals as well, and we need to bring them with us. So when the dog starts doing better, when you change that diet, you bring that dog back into the vet clinic and say, look what I did and look what you didn't do. Please listen for the sake of all the other animals.
Please listen.
Yeah.
I know. Please listen. That's all we want. We just want we want to open more minds. So that's what we're working toward. Conor, thank you.
Time flies.
As always, our conversations are fun. Yes, time does fly. But, always tons of info in there. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to when we can get together in person again.
Absolutely. Until next time.